So, a couple things I want to address or give updates to when it comes to the channel as well as videos before we get into the responses for, well, the videos that Onision has posted. First off, I'm going to be taking the time in between working on my videos to revamp the intros possibly, as well as adding more flair to the initial video, especially with my ideas on how to address or deal with, people like Onision abusing the copyright system or fair use law. For instance, I'll be using this brand new image that I've created for the videos when it comes to using somebody's content. For the most part, I've just been using audio, but as you guys can see, especially with the recent videos where I just use audio and put something like Onision, the coward, abusing copyright or something like that. In this video, as you guys can see in this clip, it says that audio only, video reference is censored due to cowards abusing content protected by the fair use law, audio only. By which case I can use this with a lot of my other videos or my other responses, so that way it's not just on one person. I can use this with any of the other response videos that I do on other people. Another thing too is, as you guys may have saw on Twitter, I posted a screenshot of the counter notification that I had to file against Onision to submit to YouTube legal documentation that the video that I produced was his. The video in question that was being affected by a copyright claim and then dispute, appeal, and so on was the Grooming Onion going to jail, ! Attack of the Reuploads, which is the one that was taken down and eventually end up having a strike on my channel for. That email that I received from YouTube, I got from December 20th. And to give you guys a happy ending of this whole ordeal, today on December 22nd, the day I'm recording this entire video, whenever it gets up, the video is back up. The video will also be linked in the description so you guys can check it out for those who have not seen it yet due to it being taken down, as well as the strike taken off our channel. I guess when you go on Twitter to roast YouTube for protecting people who use predatory behavior as well as grooming teenagers, they start to get their crap together. And final thing I want to point out to everyone, especially those who want to do videos on Greg. I'm not going to call him by Grooming Onion, even though I have it in the title. I'm not going to call him by Onision. I'm just going to call him Greg throughout the video. And if I say any of those other names, please let me know. At this point, instead of him trying to make the excuse of, oh, it's just a character, I'm going to be using his exact name, calling him out for his own logic and behavior. So, to those people that want to make videos on him or have been making videos and have been affected by his abuse of the copyright system, understand that, especially with him trying to threaten legal action towards you, those are all empty threats. For those who probably haven't realized it by now, there is no way in hell he is going to just pull a large sum of money to deal with every individual. At this point, more than likely, more than hundreds, thousands of people even, that do videos on him. He's not. He's not going to put that effort into trying to claim with claiming videos, yes, but to combat our fair use, our right to use his content. He can't. It's almost impossible for him to do so. And he's used this tactic of threatening lawsuit time and time again, and so far people have eventually have seen through his cracks in his shield, so to speak. He uses this to try to silence people. And when that doesn't work, you see him for the little individual that he is. It's like that scene from It when people start calling him a clown, and you see him for the shriveled little thing that he is. That's Greg. That's what he is when people have been calling him out for what he is, and he can do nothing about it. So, to everyone that makes videos on him, don't be afraid of him. Don't be afraid of his antics, his tactics to try to silence you. Because ultimately, it means jack. You are within your legal right to make videos and to use his content on him. Hell, especially to some of the bigger content creators that have been doing videos on him, if you really want to stick it to him, do what I've been doing. Only use the audio of the videos. At this point, so far, content like that where I just use the audio have been safe. He has not claimed it. More than likely, he's just looking for any of the video that's being used, not the audio. Because at this point, the only thing from the video is the audio, compared to a lot of the other stuff that we put in. And even in that case where we're using the video, what you guys are doing, where you add content to the content that already exists, breaking it down piece by piece to respond to, adding, quick one-liners, making jokes in his expense, adding video game gameplay as a background video, intros, outros, etc., music. It becomes a transformative work and therefore no longer his property, so to speak. So, to everybody, especially for those who've been wanting to make videos, go ahead and make them. Because he can do absolutely nothing to you. Sure, he'll claim the videos, but ultimately, that's all he'll do. And I will say that with the way that things are going, he won't be a problem anymore, especially with this platform. Though, I will say that it seems like YouTube itself is also going to be going down the gutter with them, taking no action when it comes to dealing with this issue and harboring an individual who has now been known to use predatory behavior. But I digress. Why don't we go ahead and get started with the responses?
So, let's talk about what needs to be talked about in regards to how you perceive the world.
No offense, Greg, but nobody wants to hear how you perceive the world.
Let's say that you have an issue with somebody because you think that their problems aren't as big as yours. Let's say that you think because you have certain challenges in life that suddenly other challenges aren't as valid. A child who drops their ice cream on the ground and is crying harder than they ever have in their life, you're not going to think very highly of somebody if they walk up and they say, well, if you think that's bad, you should try going through a divorce.
Something tells me this is something that his creepy mom said to him.
That doesn't make the kid feel better. That kid's pain is still valid. And all you really accomplished is proving that you're a-hole who doesn't understand pain.
Oh, hi there, Kettle. Name's Pot. Have we met?
How the grass is always greener on the other side. You know what I mean? So when you're a human being, and it's sad that we have to explain this to some people, but when you're a human being, we have this consistent, many of us, feeling that things could be better. And so we look at things, I wish I had a bigger house, I wish I had a nicer car.
It's funny that this is coming from the guy that's wasted a ton of money on many houses, bought a bunch of Teslas, bought a lot of useless stuff to make it or at least to some extent filled a space in his home to make it seem like, hey, look at my lifestyle. Mostly due to, him wanting to entice young teenagers into his house. But all in all, wasting a lot of money and having this rich lifestyle. If that's not ironic, I don't know what is.
And we wish. And we look at people who have the things we don't, and we say, oh, well, they don't have problems, because if I had that, I'd be happy. But the problem with that is that human beings are problem solvers. And in order to be a problem solver, you have to identify problems. And when you identify problems, it probably means that you're not necessarily feeling great about them, because when you identify problems, that's now a problem that you have. So what I'm saying is that a person who just worries about eating food doesn't care about these bigger issues.
It doesn't help in these situations where he tries to act as if he knows everything, but in reality, he's being very vague about what he's trying to talk about. I mean, to me, it's almost like he doesn't really know what the hell he's saying, and he's just spouting out words.
Yet emotionally, they react to a lot of these issues the same way as if they were dealing with what someone would perceive as smaller issues. So when you say something like, oh, skinny girls, your problems aren't valid because I'm fat, and being fat is a real problem. This is not true. Problems are problems. And when people react the same emotionally to being fat as they do to being skinny, in both their eyes, those problems are pretty equal, because emotionally they're feeling them the same way. So their suffering is the same. And we as human beings who care about each other, we're compassionate towards suffering, not towards how big the problem is in our opinion.
So, with this sort of dialogue that he's mentioning now, that we should be more sincere or more compassionate to people who are suffering, I'm wondering if this is tying into the stuff that he goes through, with him using the whole, people who are overweight to people who are underweight have just as much as ridicule as one and the other. But my issue is when it comes to a lot of what Onision's saying is usually in those cases, yeah, that is when it comes to people being treated the way they are for, how they look, their weight, their skin color. It's unjustified. But knowing that Onision is going to probably use this as a tactic to say, oh, you need to be compassionate to my suffering. No. Everything that has happened to you, you did to yourself. I know I keep repeating myself at this point, but you did that to yourself. You have to suffer the consequences.
We're compassionate towards the feeling because we ourselves don't like suffering. So we try to correct the suffering. We try to make people's lives better. So when you say your suffering is not valid, but my suffering is, even though it's essentially the same sensation of suffering, because let's be real, if there was no suffering, nobody felt bad about anything, then it would be hard to be a victim of something in many instances. Not all, but in many instances. For instance, if someone cheated on me and I was laughing my butt off and totally fine with it, like I didn't have any emotional negative response, it doesn't really make me a victim of that.
Just like how you doxing and harassing people on the internet, especially when it comes to your exes who have been calling you out for being a predator, does not make you a victim. If anything, it just shows the kind of manipulative and vindictive individual that you are.
In the sense that I'm not showing damages. When you don't show damages, it's hard to show that someone did something bad. Kind of like somebody walking up to a wall, and if you spray paint it and you can see spray paint on it, graffiti, it's a clear crime that occurred. But if somebody spray paints a wall with transparent spray paint and there's nothing there, you can't see anything, it's hard to get someone in trouble for that because you don't really have proof. Ultimately, the reason I made this video is because a lot of people say that other people don't have real problems, like skinny girls. They say, oh, you're skinny, you have nothing to feel bad about.
I have, without a doubt, know that you aren't making this video for that. You're making this video, and you're using that as a crutch to make people feel sympathetic towards you.
That's not true. A lot of people get bullied as skinny people. They get called scrawny, pathetic, puny, etc. So to act like those people don't have problems is ignorant, and it makes you a little maybe less human in regards to feeling and relating with other people's suffering. So when I see people on Twitter going like, skinny shaming isn't a thing, that's ignorant. And ignorance is not something to be proud of, because you are wrong and you are oblivious and uneducated. We live in the real world. And if we're trying to advance in the real world, we have to understand the real world. So when you reveal things like that you don't understand basic concepts about life, that people suffer equally regardless of the problems in many instances. Someone who just lost their dog could cry just as hard as someone who just lost immensely more. 3 dogs, 4 dogs, other people. You could put both suffering on scales, and it would come out to many times the same, depending on how that person reacts to things emotionally.
It's interesting that this is coming from the guy that, one, killed his own pet by leaving them in a plastic bin in the sun, and 2, when people were emotionally distraught over losing one of their idols, someone who apparently was a really good person, Onision had the gall to not just harass and belittle those people who were fans of this individual, but every time there was somebody who, or at least there was a tragedy, Onision tried to act like Greg tried to act like the better person and belittled people for not giving remorse to the people that he wanted people to remorse for, to give prayer for. Yeah, dude, your sympathy is fake, just like your videos. You can cut the crap.
So long story short, if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're something in between, I think it's probably better that we not look at each other and go, your suffering is less. Because when you advance in the world, when you get that house you want, when you get that car you want, you're going to start noticing new problems. And those problems are probably going to feel pretty similar to your old problems. In fact, there's even a quote, a popular phrase that really captivates how, despite the fact that you advance in the world, you still have significant problems. It's called "more money, more problems." It's a phrase for a reason. You really do typically have more problems when you have more money. They may be smaller problems, they may be different problems, but they still feel like a whole lot. And the reason they do is because the rules typically change when you get rich. And you would know about this if you researched the entire financial world of the wealthy. But if you're smart with financial management, that can be avoided. You just have to hire a professional. But ultimately, I want you guys to understand that this whole nonsense with going on Twitter and telling other people that they are lesser, that they don't matter as much as you do, like you're a more important citizen because you're fat and not skinny. People can die from being skinny. People can die from being fat. People can die from a lot of things. To belittle someone without even knowing them or understanding their problems, it's not something prideful. All you are doing is just projecting to the world, screaming out to everyone, look how oblivious I am. Never been skinny, never understood what it's like to be bullied for being skinny, but I'm going to say that they don't have real problems.
With him going with, doing like an 8-minute video, which I had to shorten, by the way, for this video, because I'm responding to 3 of his videos on his Uh-Oh Bro, which, by the way, funny that you called your last video on Onision Speaks the final video. Did you just mean that one channel? Or were you just BSing everybody and decided, I'm just going to pull a loophole and respond on my other channel? Yeah. And you wonder why people say you're not honest.
I want you to imagine having nothing to contribute to the internet whatsoever. Like, everything you do is boring, uninteresting, nobody wants to watch it.
So, your content then?
Golf clap? Golf clap.
I want you to think about, this reality that you're not musically capable, you're not capable of making funny gaming videos, you're not capable of making funny videos that anyone would ever watch. No matter what you do, you get, no views. So that sucks, right? It sucks that you can't make a single viral video, and you never have made a viral video, and you never will make a viral video, and you never will do anything that is even remotely fun or interesting.
Greg, the only reason I think your whole I'm a banana video got viral is because you have an individual like yourself who dressed up in a banana costume, saying only one line, dancing around like a jackass. And to some extent, people like stupid. That's the only reason why, at least in my opinion, is why that thing became viral. Though, to be fair, this quote from Tropic Thunder probably says it best when it comes to your whole I'm a banana video, as well as, you know, the majority of your content.
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
And the only option you have is to find somebody that other people actually care about.
The people that care about you are dwindling, and the only ones that are sticking around are the ones that just want to kiss your ass, dude.
Like other people find interesting, other people search a lot or whatever, and just say something about them. Not good or bad, but just say something. I want you to imagine that the only thing you have going for you is talking about other people.
So what counts as, you know, with people talking about other people, a bad thing? Does, let's say for instance, people talking about people of history, people who have done significant things in history, whether the good or bad, to kind of give a sort of like perspective on a topic. What about people in the industry, whether it be, you know, movies or video games? Are we not allowed to talk about them? What about when people do horrendous things? Are you saying that people can give their opinions on someone who is a distasteful cockroach of an individual? And with that, I'm actually pointing to you, Greg. You are the disgusting cockroach.
If you're in a career field like you are, paparazzi, where like literally the only point of your life is to take pictures of people that people actually want to see. They don't want to see you. If you're paparazzi, they don't care about you. You're just a cameraman. I want you to imagine being a tabloid writer where nobody actually cares about you as a person. They just want to see you talk smack or otherwise talk about other people. Like you are irrelevant to them. They only want to know about the glamorous, you know, the people that had all the right genetics, you know, where their eyes just aren't too far apart. Their lips are the perfect amount of fleshiness, you know? People want to hear about those individuals. You can't really feel too upset about these people when they get obsessive. Like if a paparazzi person constantly stalks J-Lo or a Kardashian.
It's kind of funny and ironic that Onision Greg is trying to coin people as stalkers or paparazzi for those that have been talking about him, when he in fact has done the exact same thing that he is challenging, or at least claiming others to be. He has stalked and harassed Eugenia Cooney when it comes to her social media. He has harassed and to some extent tried to damage Shane Dawson's reputation. He has stalked and harassed and slandered his exes. I'm sorry, but no, you can't claim that people that talk about you claim them to be paparazzi. You can't try to make that sort of comparison. You just can't. And in the end, whether they're paparazzi or not, guess what? They're allowed to do content on you if they want to. It's their right. So you trying to claim that, oh, it's not okay to talk about somebody, that's not gonna work. because people are still going to talk about you, especially when you're a heinous individual with a horrible history of abuse and manipulation.
It's their job. They could have chose any profession. They could have been a school teacher or whatever, if they're capable. But they chose to be a paparazzi because maybe they just have that in them to harass people. Maybe they're a little sadistic. Maybe they enjoy it a little bit. But even that is beyond their control. Like, mentally, it's not like anyone's born and they say, you know what I want to do for a living? Harass people.
Seriously, you really need to get out of your head that people making videos on you is harassment. It's not harassment. And if anything, that can be turned around on you. Every video you've made on Eugene Cooney has been harassment. Every video on Shane Dawson or him of you challenging him to a boxing match could be considered harassment. Every video you've made trying to claim that everything was okay with your exes when they want nothing to do with you can be considered harassment. You need to quit. You're only digging yourself a deeper hole.
I don't think anybody does that. I think that it just comes naturally based on our own demented childhoods, our own messed up chemistry in our brain, or whatever disorders that we may have.
You serious?
But the point I'm trying to convey to you guys is there's a lot of people on YouTube, there's a lot of people in the entertainment industry and so forth, where the only thing they can do to be successful is to talk about other people or to exploit other people.
Oh, great. You just had to make me use this a second time.
You serious?
Okay, so let me get this straight. You think in your whatever, size brain you have, that the only reason that people make videos on you is because they have some kind of disorder that compels them to make videos on you or on a particular individual. Okay. Yeah, you just keep digging yourself that deeper hole, dude.
They can't do anything themselves to get attention, to get views, anything. And when you see this happen, when they start to collect donations or sell shirts or whatever, when they're trying to build their own image on the back or the shoulder of someone else, that is who they are. That is all they can do.
So, kind of like how you using I'm a banana as your only access to fame and riding that till now, and using this whole I'm a goth tween persona to try to entice people to come to your channel and to try to make yourself sound informative when you really aren't. And if anything, if people, were to acknowledge the kind of content you produce, you are a sick, twisted individual who preys on teenagers.
And they're just trying to survive. They're desperately trying to survive. Just like bootleg DVD salesmen. Just like human traffickers. Just like, door-to-door salesmen. Just like candy, the ice cream truck men. We all have jobs, and some of them are legal, some of them are not. It's unfortunate that we all can't find a respectable thing to do for a living, but maybe that wouldn't make the world very interesting if we were all decent. And I know there's an illusion right now that I'm trying to say, I'm decent, I'm respectable, I don't do this. I have been one of these people where I've obsessed over other human beings. I've made videos where, I talk about someone's eating disorder constantly, So I get it, in a way. But at some point, you gotta look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I am a loser.
You're right. I'm a loser. But you know what? Between you and me, at the very least, I'm not the one that's going to be investigated by the FBI for grooming a teenager and being a disrespectful individual towards the people that I'm supposed to care about. You, sir, have somehow managed to do all of that scot-free for a very long time. And now, all of that is coming back to bite you. So in a sense, yeah, I'm a loser, and more likely a lot of the other people that, have small channels. But at the very least, we can say that we are not a despicable piece of shit like you. So speaking for all of my fellow losers, welcome to the Losers Club, asshole.
And what I'm doing is not making me happy. If you go look in the mirror and you admit that you're a loser, and you admit that what you're doing is not good for yourself, it's not good for others, you can't feel proud of your work. I mean, maybe that's a good step in a positive direction. Or we could go on thinking that any attention is positive attention. Any money is good money. Because, reality check, babies get abandoned. People get randomly infected with numerous bacteria or diseases. One day, you just drop dead from a brain aneurysm. So whatever you're doing with your life, if you're living, you're winning, unfortunately.
I think, ultimately, when it comes to your life, you'll have your ups and downs. But it's up to you, and it's the decisions that you make that determine the kind of person that you are. Now, I've repeated myself about, Greg's exploits. Now, the interesting thing is I don't talk about, or at least haven't talked about, a lot of the stuff that has transpired because of it. You have people that have been coming together, now seeing for what he is, and speaking out. People giving their opinions. People, who've probably have suffered from individuals like Greg, and are showing how brave they are to speak out against his sort of tyranny. That's a good thing. I don't see any bad in that. But unfortunately, you have people who, like him, who are manipulative, vindictive, and get upset when people talk about how bad he is. Try to demonize those people that try to show just a glimmer of bravery and expressing themselves. So, you can shove it, Onision. Sorry, you can shove it, Greg.
And to cast judgment for me to sit here and go, I'm better than commentary channels or whatever, it's kind of nonsensical because there are a million, billion, trillion, not trillion, billion people better than me.
No, I think everybody is better than you. For the most part. I mean, with everything considered and everything that's been brought up about your past, yeah, everybody would probably be way better than you. Except J Station. Because he is a despicable individual who likes to use death for money. Oh, and let's not forget another individual that we, for when it comes to Novakast, had to dissociate ourselves with because he was being a despicable and manipulative piece of shit. And I think for those who have been with us for a very long time know exactly who I'm talking about.
So, I think it's important to be wary of people who point fingers, because a lot of times it's projecting.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
A lot of times, not all the time. A lot of times it's projecting. And it's interesting how everybody wants to point over there, but nobody wants to point right here. Are you a better or worse person for not reflecting on your own persona? For not pointing out your own flaws? Who cares? Because nothing matters, right?
You realize people can just turn this whole video around and say that this is you projecting and trying to deflect the blame or guilt towards the people that have been making videos on you, right? You do realize that, right? And so, to some people, they may consider that you might actually be hiding something. Because at this point, people have been asking you to address the accusations of you being investigated by the FBI, with you mistreating everyone that you've ever associated with. And so far, all you've done in terms of that is make really bad parodies and fake videos where you act as if you're homeless. So, yeah. A lot of people will definitely see this video you make as projecting.
We exist, big deal. We are evolved organisms. We were originally like little squiggly circle dots. And now we're these things that think we're so freaking smart, but we can't figure out one religion. We can't figure out what is actually the basis of our universe definitively. Most of it is hypothesis or theory. If you want to make a living eating crap, if you want to make a living running around flashing people, if you want to make a living doing whatever you feel, everyone pointing a finger and being hateful towards you, they have their own problems. And while I don't really agree with karma, I don't really think it exists per se.
I do, and personally, when it comes to what's been happening with you, especially with the loss of your Patreon, all I can say is karma's a bitch.
I feel like we're all suffering. And so we're all paying for our sins every day. You can wish horrible things on people, but life is a horrible thing in many, many ways. So we all got our karma. And it just makes sense to be self-aware and realize that if you don't want to continue to feel the horrors of life, then maybe you shouldn't participate in those horrors.
I know I keep using the word ironically in this video, but ironically, coming from the guy that likes to hide or disable comments and sometimes disable dislikes when he doesn't like the outcome of the like to dislike ratio of his videos when he says really stupid shit.
It's the golden rule. A lot of people forget the golden rule. But if you don't want people to sadistically laugh at you, to humiliate you, it starts with you. Because everyone else is just a different version of you, born into a different configuration. They got a different brain chemistry, they got a different life, but they're your body. They're their human body. Most people probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between you from the neck down in many instances. So maybe it's time we stop thinking of each other as separate people and rather look at each other as separate circumstances. What if you were born with BPD? What if you were born into an abusive household? Would you wind up making a tabloid? Would you wind up being a paparazzi?
You are made of stupid.
The biggest problem with human beings is that when we point fingers at other people, we don't realize that in a big way we're just pointing a finger at someone who's been pinned down and had a flashlight shine in their face. If you were pinned down and had a flashlight shine in your face, I'm fairly certain many similar flaws would pop up just like that other person. Like a bunch of hypocrites laughing at each other. Essentially. That's what's so disturbingly hilarious about the world. You think things are so bad about other people because everyone's focused on them. But what happens when someone focuses on you? You don't really realize you have the flaws you do until it goes investigated, when people really take a close look. And then suddenly all the blackheads and pimples you never knew existed, boom, there they are.
Greg, I know you keep trying to make yourself seem like a victim and you're trying to make yourself sound deep, but once again, you're not a victim. You can't keep trying to portray yourself as a victim when you yourself have put yourself in the situation, the circumstances that you're in. Bottom line is you're only making yourself look worse and worse by doing stuff like this.
So I'd like to make your life a little bit better today, and this advice can help everyone on Earth pretty much. So that's a pretty outstanding thing that I have.
Greg, any advice from you is never helpful in any way and to anyone. Anything you say has always and will ever be destructive, because you're an individual who can't learn from his own faults, who can't change himself as an individual, and can't see to some extent past his own blinders. You just can't. You refuse to.
So let's talk about evil versus good and this faulty view of the world. First of all, recycling. When you recycle, you may think you're doing a really, really good thing, and you probably are. But there's also politics behind recycling, where we sell our recycling to other nations, and sometimes those nations don't buy our recycling. So sometimes there's potential for our recycling to sit here in America and just blow in the wind, like fragments just blowing off, because they don't necessarily bury garbage or anything like that, the same way they handle recycling. And what I mean by that is they let recycling sit and they let garbage get buried or burned, or a number of things people do to handle garbage.
You know, it doesn't help the whole situation where you talk about something for a long period of time, which more likely has no relevance to what you're discussing, and you can't just get to the point, especially with a really short video where you BS most of the time.
So what I'm saying is that when you think that you're doing a good deed, you might not be. You might actually be contributing to the problem, i.e. recycling blowing in the wind. I used to be willing to walk all the way outside to put a handful of recycling in a recycling bin, whereas more recently I've decided that I want to do what makes sense and stop putting myself out there, so I don't develop a self-righteous complex.
A little late on that one.
You may have never thought about this psychologically, that when you do good deeds constantly, you actually are creating this sense of entitlement or this sense of superiority in yourself.
What about the ones that pretend they're doing good deeds and end up having to lie to themselves, thinking that they are in the right of what they're doing, but in reality, it's not the case? By the way, in case people were wondering, I'm talking about Anit-Onision being a compulsive liar, claiming that he's doing good for people like Eugene Cooney, but in reality has done more harm than actual good. And using only few comments, which, again, like everything else, are vague, as reference points of him, doing good work. Now that I think about it, I think it might be a bad time to point out, too, that Greg also has a reputation for falsifying messages or posts. So, if anything, some of the comments that are praising him for his good work are more than likely him writing his own praises.
When you constantly do things intentionally that make you go out of your way to be unlike other people and to rise above other people, you are oftentimes, inevitably, isolating yourself from the rest of society. And so you can't bond with them as well. And you can't be a part of it as efficiently, nor succeed as well. A lot of people don't want to hang out with somebody who thinks that they're better than them. They don't want to be talked down to. They don't like people who are condescending, etc. And a lot of these people wind up, rich CEOs and so forth who are condescending and think that they're above society.
There are also those people that have this sort of high superiority when it comes to their YouTube channels, where they act like they have an influence, and in a sense do have an influence over people who are, I would to some extent say, not know any better, and will spout any garbage they can and act as if they are all high and mighty. Again, pointing the finger at Greg.
But the point is that for ourselves, what we probably want is to be happy.
Doesn't anybody? I mean, isn't it in our nature to try to be happy? The only issue is what you have to do in order to get that sort of happiness. And the real question is, will it harm others if you try to obtain said happiness?
And happiness typically doesn't accept extremes. And this is where the topic gets a bit heavy. On the abortion issue or on the death penalty issue. A lot of times when there's a death penalty, there can be doubt. And when there is doubt, Like, you didn't personally see that person do the crime that's led to them getting the death penalty. You didn't see concrete evidence to conclude that, yes, 100% fact, they definitely were at this place at that time, you know? Yet people still go to jail. They still get put in a table and injected with lethal contents because of, maybe 90%, 80% certainty.
I'm sorry. I might be kind of overthinking it, but you trying to make a comparison to this whole topic with what's being said with the investigation that the FBI is, investigating you and your spouse for illegal crimes when it comes to enticement of minors? Because so far it seems, especially with, the stuff that has been said by the victims, and if I recall, the photographic imagery that was taken off of one of the laptops of one of the exes that or at least the laptop that one of your exes received from your spouse, that's not wrongful. That's evidence against you on you enticing minors. I say minors, but I mean teenagers, but you get the point. You can't say that you're wrongfully accused. Again, I might be overthinking it, but still. You can't say that you're wrongfully accused. Because this point, especially with the investigation, apparently they've been investigating you for some time now. They've had you on their list. You're done for, dude. You might as well throw in the towel. You did this to yourself.
So when you are pro-death penalty, you might be killing innocent people. And I don't see why people would feel self-righteous for that. On abortion, you could say that the next Gandhi, the next Martin Luther King, the next Albert Einstein or whatever has already been aborted. You're talking about people who are coming from great hardships, okay? A lot of them endured extreme oppression. People who are born into families that otherwise would have aborted them may have been similar had they not been aborted. But the same applies for people who are, potentially the next Hitler, the next Stalin, the next Charles Manson, And that's why, personally, we shouldn't play God for others, because we don't really know what we're doing. We think we know, but we're only on this earth for, at most 120 years. If you're insanely lucky, 130. But I don't know if that's lucky if you're not healthy, but one of the best things you can do for yourself is to stop pretending that you know the answers.
Kind of like how you should stop pretending like you know all the answers and you are the most reasonable individual in any situation.
Just stop pretending that your logic is the greatest and most pure thing on earth, because that's why we have wars. Everybody thinks they're right, typically, who goes to war, because they don't see their own bias. They don't see how their own rewards from the outcome of their decisions could influence why they're willing to end the lives of others, or otherwise willing to ruin the lifestyle that others have. So when you try to affect transgender people, when you try to affect gay people, when you try to affect people who are pro-choice or pro-life or anything like that in a negative way, when you try to act like you are the all-knowing being on earth who must be listened to and must be obeyed, when you try to start a religion, when you try to do anything, when you act like you are the answer, you are the problem, probably. Life would be much better if everybody thought more along the lines of maybe, rather than certainly. Maybe allows growth. Maybe allows a change in direction if new information comes along. Certainty is ignorance. In most every instance within this context, it is ignorance, because you are refusing to accept new information when you are certain. And when you refuse to accept new information, that means that facts could be sitting right in front of you and you cannot see them.
Alright, Mr. Fact Machine, why don't we go ahead and put this in perspective? Especially with the allegations that are against you with you soliciting minors or teenagers. Greg, you've been given every chance to give your opinion or try to clear your name when it comes to the allegations. But what did you do? You tried to tell people that you would only do it if you were given a large sum of money, which you know that they aren't going to fall for that. You make parody videos joking about the situation, whereas every single one of your victims, everyone who has been hurt by you, have spoken out. Every single one of them giving the same details about your behavior and how you treat people. I'm sorry, but I have to quote Spock from Star Trek, and I know this is kind of to some people, a bad quote, but you know what? It fits. The means of the many outweigh the means of the few. So far, you've claimed that we've never heard your story. You've never given your story. Whereas, when it comes to the victims, they've all spoken out against you. And they've given their opinions and given their story of how you treated them. So, you need to get off your high horse, claiming that you are wrongfully accused, that you are being mistreated, that you are a victim. You are not a victim. You are far from it. You are a predator. You are a manipulative liar. And you are an individual who will suffer the consequences for his own actions, just like anybody else who does something wrong. Well, I will say that is if YouTube actually gets off their asses. At this point, though, all I can say with that whole situation is YouTube will probably end up falling because of their involvement with you, with them protecting you. People, parents, communities who see this story, they're not going to want to have their kids go and watch videos off this website anymore. They're not going to want anybody to participate or associate with anybody involved with this website because they protect predators. So, you need to get off your high horse because your days are numbered. And it's not because of us. It's not because of me. It's not because of Repsion. It's not because of Mike and Nectar. And it's not because of your exes. It's not because of Jack and Glenn. Not because of Shane Dawson. Not because of Sear. Not because of everybody that has ever been involved with you in any way. Whether through, in your relationships or doing videos on you, but your own actions. You are your own consequence. Alright, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you have anything you would like to add to the conversation, please leave it in the comments down below. Want to follow MJ, Magi, and Aden on gaming streams? Go check them out. If you want to follow us on social media, links are in the description. If you want to follow Sage for his nature walks, which is a lot of fun, go check that out. If you guys want to watch some of the other content that I produce, sometimes I upload between noon and 6 p.m. Pacific time. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. This is Rob of Novakast signing off. Have a good one, and take care. Peace.